The June 6, 2018 meeting of the Windsor Planning Commission will now come to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Doug Dennison.
Present.
Travis Yates.
Here.
Victor Talent.
Present.
Gail Schick.
Present.
Jerry Bushelman.
Present.
Daniel Foreman.
Present.
Tim Annable.
Here.
Town Board Liaison David Sislowski.
Here.
First item on tonight's agenda is the review of the agenda itself by the Planning Commission for any addition of items or new business to be added to the agenda.
Move to approve as written.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Annable, second by Commissioner Foreman, that we approve the agenda as presented. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed vote no. I might have pushed the wrong button here. It could have happened. It could have happened.
We'll turn around and see it. There you go.
Yeah.
We can pull that one off of there and make that a unanimous. I think I kind of fat fingered that one. The next item is public invited to be heard. If there's anyone in the audience who has an item that is not on tonight's agenda that they wish to present to the commission, now is the time to do so. If you do have an item, if you would come to the podium, give us your name and address. You'll have a 3-minute time limit to give us your information. There is a red light, yellow light, green light indicator on the podium. When it gets to yellow, you'll have 30 seconds left in your 3 minutes, so be aware of that if somebody decides to do that. Any public invited to be heard? Okay, we'll move to the next item. Under the consent calendar, we have the approval of the minutes of the May 16th, 2018 meeting.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes for this May 16th meeting.
Second that. Been moved by Commissioner Talon, second by Commissioner Yinks, that we approve the minutes of the May 16th, 2018 meeting. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no. And motion carries unanimously. Moving into the board action items, we'll close our regular meeting, open up a public hearing for major subdivision Jacoby Farm 7th filing. David, you have a comment you want to make?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The first 3 matters on the agenda here involve the Jacoby Farm 7th filing. With respect to this public hearing and as to those matters, Mr. Chair, for the record, I would like to disclose I am a sitting member of the town board, that I'm here in my capacity as a non-voting liaison to the Planning Commission. Although I'll be present during this public hearing, I will not be giving my opinion or participating in the discussion. I will not let tonight's proceedings influence or affect my view on this matter when it comes before the town board. I will make my decision at that time based only on the evidence presented during the town board public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, David. Melissa, you got the floor.
So this is the public hearing and the recommendation to the town board for the final major subdivision for Jacoby Farm 7th filing. The subdivision was reviewed in accordance with Article 4 of Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. The site is located in the northeast and the southeast corner of 17th Street and Grand Avenue in the Jacoby Farm subdivision. The site is zoned RMU, or residential mixed use, and it's adjacent to similar zoning and also to a general commercial to the south. The final plat is on 2 parcels, as you saw, totaling about 5 acres. It's to allow for ownership of townhome units. So there's 61 townhome lots, and that takes about 2.3 acres. And then there's also the open space or common space lot tract on each of the lots, tract A and tract B, and that's approximately 2.7 acres. And again, that common space includes the parking, utility easements, clustered mailboxes, and all that stuff. I do want to note that school dedications were met with the Jacoby Farm 2nd filing, and there's also some park dedication credit from that filing as well that would apply to this property. Something else I wanted to say. Let me double check. Nope, we're okay. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to say that the common space is planned to be maintained by our homeowners association. So the northern portion is on a 2.7 acre area. This one's got one more townhome than the southern part, so it's 31 townhomes. And again, that common space with the parking and the landscaping area. So again, this is to just provide individual ownership of the different townhomes. And the southern portion is a little smaller. It's got 30 townhomes and the common space. So with comprehensive plan in mind, the proposal meets a few of the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, in particular the growth framework, which asks to prioritize new growth in areas currently served by the town infrastructure. It also asks to incentivize infill projects on properties within to complete neighborhoods and leverage existing resources, and also develop new neighborhoods adjacent to the town core, which is just north of the Jacoby commercial subdivisions where the King Soopers is and the old Walmart site is located. For the residential areas framework, this also helps foster the diversity of the housing types, where multifamily is not often proposed in this area, or used to not be proposed as much. And also it supports high-density residential development near the downtown. And this is tied to the site plan that we'll see later in the night, but the same goals apply to this particular plat. So there was a neighborhood meeting on March 26th of this year. There was a previous meeting that was held in January 30th of this year, but it missed notification time. So this is the second neighborhood meeting that was held. That information in the meeting notes for both the meetings was included in your packet. And then the other notifications that are required for the public hearing are listed on this page as well. So staff does recommend that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation to the town board to approve the final major subdivision as presented, subject to the following conditions. And that's all outstanding staff comments are addressed on the plat. And then the applicant entering into a development agreement with the town before, with the recording of the subdivision plat. For this final major subdivision, staff requests that the following items be entered into the record: the application and supplemental materials, staff memorandum and supporting documents, all the testimony received during the public hearing, and this recommendation. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. Since this is the public hearing portion of the process, is there anyone in the audience who has any comments pertaining to this agenda item or questions for staff or commission?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Talon, seconded by Commissioner Bushelman, that we close public hearing. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no. Motion carries unanimously. We will reconvene our regular meeting, moving on to the next agenda item, which is a recommendation to the town board for major subdivision, Jacoby Farm 7th filing. Anything further, Melissa?
No. Same presentation class.
Okay. Does the applicant have any information they want to present, or are they okay with where we're going here?
No.
Okay, thank you. Comments, questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I move that we forward a recommendation to the town board to approve the final major subdivision, excuse me here. The final major subdivision as presented and follow staff's recommendations.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Talon, seconded by Commissioner Hannibal, that we forward a recommendation to the town board of approval of the final major subdivision as presented by staff with the two conditions listed. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no. And motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the next item, which is a recommendation to the town board for final site plan, Jacoby Farm 7th filing, Jacoby Farm Townhomes. Melissa?
Yeah, so this is the second part of that, that goes with that major subdivision. This is the site plan of the townhomes. It is reviewed in accordance with Article 7 of Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. The same site location from the previous presentation, same zoning. So here's the final site plan. This is both property, or both sites together. Again, overall, it's 5 acres, two sites, 61 townhome units. I'll get into the building design later in the presentation. The platted common open space, it does have 164 parking spaces over the two properties. They each have a 2-car garage plus surface parking spaces. The ratio comes out to 2.7 per unit, and the code right now is 1.5. Again, school dedication fees and park credit, and then homeowners association to take care of that common space. So the northern site, a little more detail on some of the trail linkages and where mailbox will be located, things that weren't on the plat itself. Where locations of the parking stalls, access. The access are, for both sites are both off a Stoll, one access off a Stoll and one access off a Grand Avenue. For this particular one, Stoll's up here and the Grand Avenue to the south. South one, similar characteristics, one less townhome lot, same effort for the parking. And then there's also a linkage down to the trail that goes along the canal, down on the south part of the property. Landscape plan to show a little bit more detail on the common areas. There's some space for open grass areas, and then also adequate buffering between the parking areas and drive aisles and those properties to the east, or most of them are to the east. So yes, efforts to put evergreen trees in those areas, or evergreen bushes, to help kind of screen the headlights. Those will be located, if you need more information, on the ends here, some over here, and then along here, Here are the building elevations. The buildings are about 30 feet, or are 30 feet tall. It has a pitched roof with shingles and siding. The architecture is an attempt to go with the Jacoby Farm theme of like farm housing and that kind of thing. So it goes pretty complementary to the existing single-family houses to the east of this property. So this is the 5-plex, this is the 6-plex, same kind of design, a little different, greater variety, and then the 7-plex here. One thing to note is that the frontage of the buildings will be facing the street, and the parking or the garage areas will be facing interior to the site. So then again, the comprehensive plan conformance, so these are the same goals and objectives that were stated for the plat. They are linked, so it makes sense they're similar. Again, focusing growth and where they're served with infrastructure and infill near amenities and the town core, and also supporting the diversity of housing types and those diversity housing types near commercial and other amenities in the area. So the recommendation, staff recommends that the Planning Commission provide to the town board a recommendation of approval of the final site plan as presented, subject to the following condition, which is all the remaining staff comments be addressed, and then also with that development agreement between the developer and the town. So for the final site plan, staff requests that the following be entered into the record: this application and submittal materials, staff memorandum and supporting documents, and this recommendation. And that concludes the presentation.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. Comments, questions from the commission? Anyone?
Mr. Chair, I move that we forward to the town board a recommendation of approval of the final site plan subject to the conditions as stated by staff.
Second.
And moved by Commissioner Talent, second by Commissioner Foreman, that we forward at the town board a recommendation of approval of the final site plan subject to the 2 conditions listed. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed vote no. And motion carries unanimously. close our regular meeting again, open up a public hearing for a conditional use grant for Merlin Oil and Gas Pad.
Mr. Chair?
David?
Thank you. Actually, Mr. Chair, two items. One, as to this matter and the next agenda items dealing with the oil and gas matter, for the record, I need to disclose that I am a sitting member of the town board. I'm here in my capacity as a non-voting liaison to the Planning Commission. Although I will be present during this public hearing, I will not be giving my opinion or participating in the discussion. I will not let tonight's proceedings influence or affect my review of this matter when it comes before the town board. I will make my decision at the town board level based only on the evidence presented during the town board public hearing. Also, Mr. Chair, if I may, I do serve on the Water Valley District 2 Board of Directors with Mr. Martin Lind. While this matter does involve a completely different entity, and I cleared and just spoke with town council, we don't perceive a conflict of any kind. But in the matter of full disclosure, I just wanted you to understand my affiliation with the applicant in that capacity.
Okay, thanks, David. Carlin, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The item before you is a conditional use grant for oil and gas facilities located in Water Valley West, Lot 5. This proposal was reviewed in accordance with Article 7, Chapter 16 of the Municipal Code that outlines the criteria for a conditional use grant and the process for a conditional use grant. CUGs are for uses that don't necessarily, that aren't specifically listed as a use by right. For oil and gas facilities, however, they are allowed in any zone district with a conditional use grant approval. And that is why it is before you tonight. The oil and gas facilities criteria include visual requirements, landscape requirements, floodplain requirements, and the town also has standard conditions of approval for oil and gas, which I'll get into later. The site is located half a mile north of New Liberty Road and half a mile west of 7th Street. The property is zoned residential mixed use. The proposed truck route from I-25 to Crossroads would head north on County Road 13 to County Road 64, just north of New Liberty Road here, and into the site via access road here. Traffic would be limited to avoid school traffic hours and commuter rush hour times, and that's included in the conditions. The site includes 6 wells that are shown here with these black dots. There are also 10 tanks and separators and associated equipment. During the drilling phase, the applicant will have sound walls and also a 25 to 30 foot cut below grade so that the site is not visible or audible from adjacent uses. After the drilling period and the site is cleaned up, they will have 60 days to install the perimeter landscaping. The overall site includes 362 acres, that's lot 5. The pad site itself will include 7 acres, and again, 6 wells and associated equipment is what the request is for. And the closest occupied structure is 290 feet, and in their application to the state, a a waiver to that setback was included in their application. The closest occupied structure in Hilltop subdivision, 1,500 feet, and Pooter Heights at just over 2,100 feet. The neighborhood meeting was held on May 3rd of this year. The area highlighted here in yellow were the properties that were notified. It's 500 feet from the property boundary. There were 2 neighbors in attendance with general questions. That correspondence is included in your packet. Notifications for the public hearing were done in accordance with the code as listed here. Additionally, in addition to notifying the property owners within 500 feet from the property boundary, the adjacent homeowner associations were also noticed. Staff has a recommendation that includes the town's standard conditions of approval, along with 6 that are specific to this site. As shown here, one addresses the truck route and the truck route traffic times, landscape screening within 60 days of the initial drilling phase, sound wall setback 30 feet from the Pooter Trail, either temporary or permanent trails. And we request that condition number 6 be amended to what is shown here in bold. This sets a specific date for reestablishing the permanent trail for September 3rd of this year, with the reservation that portions of the trail may be closed during the construction of the golf course. And when those trail closures do occur, we ask that the temporary trail is provided to accommodate the traffic there. And 7 is the standard conditions of approval for the oil and gas facilities as amended in your packet. The applicant is requesting that condition number 3, that's the last condition of your packet, regarding the backup alarms and white noise, or avoiding having trucks that have the backup alarms, be eliminated. And I will let them speak to that, but I just wanted to make you aware of that. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission forward to the Town Board a recommendation of approval of the conditional use grant as presented, subject to all of the site-specific conditions and the town's standard conditions of approval for oil and gas facilities as amended, noting the requested change from staff on the trail condition. We ask that the following be entered into the record: the application, supplemental materials, staff memo, supporting documents, all testimony during the public hearing, and the recommendation. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. I will note that the applicant also has a slideshow to present.
Okay. Let's go ahead and see if there's anybody in the audience who has any questions or comments pertaining to this item, since we're in the public hearing portion of the process.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
And moved by Commissioner Talon, seconded by Commissioner Yingst, that we close the public hearing. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed vote no. Close the public hearing. We'll reconvene our regular meeting, open up to the next agenda item, which is the recommendation to the town board for the conditional use grant, Merlin Oil and Gas Pad. The applicant has some information here you want to present?
Yeah, brief presentation. My name is Troy Owens, and I'm the development lead for this area with Extraction. got a brief presentation here just explaining a little, little bit more. I think most of you guys know Extraction. We've been working with Windsor for a few years now. Got several pads that we've already built and they're operating within the town. And I think most of you guys are aware of the well process. It'll be about 2 to 4 days of drilling, 3 to 8 days per well of completion. And then after that, the production will last about 20 years before everything's completely gone and the land's totally reclaimed. Here is the traffic route, which Carlin already went over, and also the area of operation during drilling and completion. This will be about 7 acres. And we'll have full sound walls going on the north and east side of the pad. We think also 30 feet cut on the hill on the south and west side, which should fully mitigate any sound going and visual pollution going that way. And the final facility will only take about 2.6 acres total, and we'll have 10-foot berms with trees on top on the east and north side of the pad, which that with the 30-foot cut on the other side should fully make the pad invisible to everything. And let's go briefly over the best management practices we plan on implementing on this Merlin pad. And the main story with this pad is it's only 6 wells, so we'll be in and out real quick. Definitely one of the smaller ones we've done in Windsor. So we're hoping 30 to 45 days of drilling, 30 to 45 days of completion, and then production after that. We'll have all sound walls on the north and east side, like I said, to mitigate sound. We'll have lights during drilling and completion that point downward, and also have shielding in order to try to mitigate any visual impact with the neighbors. And during completion, we'll implement the quiet fleet with Liberty, which is something we helped pioneer, and it's pretty much revolutionary in our industry. You know, don't need hearing protection on site anymore. We'll use that. And our facilities will be fully enclosed with oil, gas, and water pipeline, taking everything out to try to minimize the total truck traffic after production or after completion, so everything will be taken out by pipe. And that's about all I got, I think.
All right, could you address the one item that you guys wanted to have eliminated?
Yeah, the
Could you address
white
that?
noise backup alarm, we think we don't think those alarms are as effective as the, beeping, and we think safety is a little more important on our locations. We also believe with the sound walls and the deep cut we have around the facility that will be sufficient for noise mitigation at the location.
So you have spotters or cameras 100% of the time, according to the note here?
We should during drilling and completion. We also build our pads so we have like a racetrack going around to try to minimize as much backing up as
So
possible.
you don't put it in R very often? Huh?
What?
You don't put it in R very often?
Yeah, we try not to do that. It slows us down and also dangerous.
Okay. And that's okay with OSHA regulations, I take it? Okay. Comments, questions from the commission?
During the operations phase, how much truck traffic, how frequently, that's gonna be, my only concern with that is our standard restriction is just for oversized loads, so just regular production loads aren't affected by that restriction on the hours, and that's gonna be a heavy residential route that you guys are going through there.
It'll be, I don't have the exact numbers on me, but it should be minimal compared to other pads. Since, I don't know if you guys have the study, but with the drilling and completion, they'll be relatively smaller operations, so we'll fully be able to comply with the traffic regulations on not having heavy truck traffic during rush hour or school traffic.
Well, none of those restrictions would really apply during your operations phase, because you're not having permitted loads come in and out that would be oversized during that phase. So would you be able to limit the transport during the operations phase to stay out of those hours as well?
Yes, for sure.
Anything else, Tim? Any other comments, questions from the commission?
I'm currently locked out, so
Well, you're locked and loaded here?
I'm locked out.
I'll vote for you, okay?
Can't dance.
If there's no other questions, I would take a motion and entertain it.
Chairman, I move that we forward a recommendation of approval for a conditional use grant for the Merlin Oil and Gas Pad, and including all the notes from staff and conditions by staff.
And keeping the request by the applicant as the staff's suggestion,
Do what now?
the change that the applicant wanted, you want to keep that as the,
Yes.
that staff wanted it?
Yes,
Okay,
according to the staff, okay, according to all staff recommendations.
okay. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Bushelman, seconded by Commissioner Foreman, that we forward to the town board a recommendation of approval of a conditional use grant with the noted conditions listed by staff. Those in favor of the motion will vote yes, those opposed vote no.
Can you get IT in here and get mine up back online? They won't let me on. It's locked out. I don't want to get it on.
Well, you voted, so we're good there.
No, I won't let me come to screen.
The motion carries unanimously for those who are keeping score. We will take a 5-minute recess so we can get this laptop working again, or desktop working. So we'll reconvene in 5 minutes or whenever we get this working. Yeah.
Hundreds of dollars on IT to get it to work.
Yeah, that's what we do. I got technology. Technology. It's not here. And it's not here.
Yeah, well, that's what happens sometimes, yeah. It says your reference account is currently locked out.
You'd probably prefer not to.
I'm sorry. The good news is you got to vote.
Yeah.
She might be right. Did you do that? Did you screw up with laptop?
Have to get Ken back in here.
Yeah, he'll run it from home.
Yeah, he'll run it from home. His passwords. Password.
Turn it off and start off.
Get restarted by itself, dude.
Yeah, everything's.
Restart.
Restarted or was it just like that?
Oh, yeah. You handle it. I'm a plumber. I just throw stuff out the window. I call my IT guy, he does everything for me.
So you might write the password. Did it just go dark on you, or is it just me?
It went dark. Don't like it.
Do you just need the planning board packet?
Down for it, yeah.
That's why he wrote that. He's used to being on the dark side, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm happy.
Still have a lot of stuff. Okay, we'll reconvene our regular meeting and go into item number 6, which is a site plan presentation for Highland Industrial Park subdivision, first filing lot 6, block 1. Alyssa.
Yeah. So as you said, site plan presentation for Lot 6, Block 1 of Highlands Industrial Park. Logos Imaging is the company that is moving into the building. This is a qualified commercial site plan, and it's reviewed in accordance with Article 9 of Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. The site is located on Highland Meadows Parkway, just north of the intersection with Green Ridge Road. The property is zoned limited industrial, which is the zoning in the bulk of the adjacent properties except to the immediate northeast, which is estate residential zoning. So the site plan includes a phased building and then all the parking and the landscaping that is associated with it. The overall lot is just over 2 acres. It's about a 3,200 square foot building. It's got about 24% lot coverage. The first phase is on the southern half, which is the darker area here. You can kind of see the dashed line is where the future building would go. And this is where Logos Imaging is going to be located. That phase is closer to 19,000 square feet. It's got 55 parking spaces, and it's parked at 1 per 300, so that's over the industrial parking standards. Logos Imaging itself has 15 to 20 employees. They're starting out with the lower end of 15 and may get up to 20 over the next 5 or so years. So they have adequate parking for that. And anyone else that would come to visit for any particular meetings. I did want to note that the parking areas, the landscaping, everything that's shown on this site plan is included with the phase 1, except for the building pad here. So both accesses off of Highland Meadows Parkway and Green Ridge will be built with phase 1, and all the parking and all the landscaping. And the loading area is on the west side of the building. Here's the landscaping plan. It's about 34% landscape area. The minimum requirement is 15%. It does include trees to help buffer and screen the structure from the northeast, which up here again was that estate residential zone. They've got evergreen trees and some other bushes and shrubs in here to help mitigate that view, or screen that view, I guess is a better word for it. Here is the building. This is the Logos Imaging Phase 1 part, and this is the outline for the Phase 2 area. The Phase 2 area will mimic or reflect the same architecture that's on the Phase 1, so you can just imagine the mirroring of that. It includes a few different kinds of stucco masonry panels in a few different colors, and I'll have that coming up a little soon. So this area here is the stucco clad, and this is a stucco clad as well, and stucco clad as well. This is a masonry siding, and then there's also the wainscot that is a stone veneer. It includes some window canopies to give it a little bit more articulation on this side of the building. It is a 30-foot tall building at the highest points, and it's got some other architecture features to help at the entryways to give it a little more character. This is the west and the south portion. I'm sorry, it's the west and the north portion. This is a metal siding with temporary. It is colored to match the stucco colors, and both in the wainscot, a darker brown, and then also up top to help it blend in better. Here are the color samples, and I have also a rendering that puts it together better for you so you don't have to piece it down. But again, the wainscot, this is the siding that's near the entryway of Logos on the south and the east side. And then these three are trim materials, and these are the two tones of the stucco clad sidings. So this is the rendering to give it a darker tan for the majority of the walls, and then near the doorway or the accent on the corner of the building is the lighter tan with the the siding over here, and then again the wainscot. So that is the presentation. This is a presentation for a site plan. It doesn't take an action, but this is for your information. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. And then also the applicant is here if you have anything that I cannot answer.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. Comments, questions from the commission? I think it's a good-looking building, so no action required on this one. Thank you. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is a site plan presentation for Falcon Point subdivision, Lot 5, Falcon Point Flex. Carlin. I guess it's Paul, but I'll go with Carlin.
Putting on my Paul hat.
Yeah, you look more like a Carlin than a Paul.
Thank you.
Is it,
I don't see it here. I can pull it up on the website. One minute, please.
Don't you hate it when that happens?
it's always when you're covering for somebody else too.
Okay, we're gonna work with this.
You need to speak to Paul tomorrow about this problem.
All right. So this is a commercial, qualified commercial industrial site plan, Lot 5 of Falcon Point subdivision. was reviewed in accordance with section 17(9) of the municipal code regarding site plans. This is an administrative site plan, so any comments that you may have will incorporate those comments into our review. The site is located south of Main Street, State Highway 392, east of State Highway 257. It's also right here between these tracks. The site is zoned industrial, or light industrial. And as part of this existing business park, here's the site plan. It includes 18,376 square feet of industrial spec space. It does meet the 15% landscape requirement. And here are the building elevations. And if you think you've seen this building before, you have to some degree, but the one that you saw on Crossroads Boulevard was dressed up a little more just because it was right there on Crossroads Boulevard. These are the same materials, the corrugated metal architectural style, so it's smooth, and then they have some of the flagstone wainscot here. Metal panels. And really that's all there is to it. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and the applicant's here as well.
Okay. Comments, questions from the commission? None? Guess we have none. There's no recommendation required on this item either. Thanks, Carla. Okay, moving into communications from Planning Commission. Mr. Annable.
No, sir.
Mr. Orbit. Nothing. Bushwoman.
Nothing.
Chantal.
No communications?
Travis.
Not this week.
Maybe next time. Doug, you have anything? Communications from our town board liaison. John.
Nothing here, sir.
Communications from staff. Charlie.
I just wanted to thank those of you that came out to the work session on Monday. I think it was really productive, and we'll be moving forward with some of those changes in the near future.
Okay, thank you. Melissa, you have anything? Scott?
Just the one question, you received my email regarding the state planning conference this year. I did hear from Commissioner Talon and Dennison, and have any of you been able to check your calendars to gauge your interest?
Throw my name in there.
Okay.
Good, you tried.
Anyone else?
I haven't checked it.
Check.
I'm not gonna be able to,
You are?
no.
All right. I will check in with a couple of you here, maybe before the end of the week, just so that way we can get accommodations nailed down. So that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Scott. And the most important one? Nothing? Gosh, you're so agreeable.
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned.